Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to start the first round of the alternatives I'll be making using the August 2025 Farmhouse Florals Paper Pumpkin kit. As you know, it's something I like to challenge myself with, so my kit has arrived and I've got 5 for you today, and then in the next video I'll do a few more. I've already got a couple of them thought out, but I don't like to do too many and make the video too long, so I'll pop that off to one side and show you the nice thing about this kit is it came with an extra stamp set. So this is the actual set, but a lot of them are already on the acrylic blocks for what we're going to be doing. But how lovely is that? We got 2 stamp sets, and the other nice thing is the spot in this one is Secret Sea, and this is from the 25-27 in colours. And as you know, when I'm travelling, if you've subscribed to my channel or you've watched a few before, I always bring myself a selection of previous paper pumpkin spots because they're great just travel size. So I didn't have this one, so that's rather nice. But even nicer for me is that I actually have the big pad of this one, so I get to use a full-size pad today. But anyway, less of the chatting and more of the action. So this is the first card base that I am going to make into 2. So let me bring in the ingredients for those, and then I can show you how I made them. This is the, I put my little measurement instructions there. This is the first one. So what I did was I took the front of this and I cut it off at 3.5. Well, I actually cut it off at 3 3/4 and then trimmed the other side down, but this piece has ended up being 3.5 inches wide, and I cut the back off, and that is going to be the base for one of the other pieces. So that's what we have. The base of the card is fresh freesia, and it was 8.5 by 5.5, scored it 4 1/4, but then I also cut 1 inch off each side. So we've got those lovely little pieces left over. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to mat. These were the pieces that were left. I've taken a piece of the Secret Sea, and it's 7/8 by 4 1/8, so I have 2 of those. And then I took some of the Celebratory Sips Designer Series paper, which has the same floral pattern, and that is 3/4 by 4. So I'm just going to quickly attach those to their counterpart. And they will be going on the edges. That just layers onto there. It's such a lovely paper, this. The florals are just so everywhere. So there's a piece of basic white to go on the inside, and that's slightly smaller. So this is 3 3/8 by 4 1/8 because we want to be able to put it inside, but the card's still closed. And sometimes if it's buttered right up against the seam, the fold line, it doesn't always do that. So you know what? I'm going to just quickly stick this in, and then that is done. And then we can go ahead and put the outsides in place. And you know me and my bling. It seems my bling thinks it's rather important, and it's trying to get in a moment. Hold on, grasshopper. So then what we're going to do is I'm going to attach this, but this is actually the full size of the front. I just didn't want to cut it down any. So what we need to do is make sure it's lined up with the edge and the bottom and the sides. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to do without getting my head in the shot, so I'll give it my best go. So it's level with the top, and there is just a smidger, but I can trim that off very quickly. And then the greeting I'm going to put on this one says, "You're simply the best." So open up the full size ink pad. I mean, seriously, it's just like, woohoo, I haven't used one of these for such a while, it feels. So "You're simply the best," and I'm going to just pop it plumb in the middle and send that off to get a wash. And then now, Bling, you can come in. These are pastel adhesive backed sequins, which I've had for such a while, but I liked the pink, and I thought, you know, I think I will use these up. I am a self-confessed blingaholic, I just know I am. And then next time something comes along, and oh look, there's more bling, oh look, there's more. And in the end, I just have more than I can shake a stick at, to be honest. So we'll put one there, one down here in this corner, and one of the smaller ones can go up at the top. And there you have it. So that's the first card made using the front of the typewriter card. And like I say, we have to look out for the back coming along quite soon. And then the next card, has this lovely piece. Well, this lovely piece is supposed to go just on a plain front. It's a double wide card, and it's just plain. And then this gets attached on. And I thought, there's really nothing more you can do to improve that look, because this is so complete. But then I thought I would take a piece of the plain white color. It's not actually real white, it's sort of winter white with the lovely speckles in. And I've cut this down. So this is a piece of strawberry slush, which again is one of the 25-27 in colors. And it's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. But then I cut half of the front off at 2 1/8. So now it's just got the split down the middle. And then I used the back half of this card, and I cut it down just by 1/8. So this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And let me just stick that in place. And then I realized, because I was using all of the pieces and they're not basic white, so adding basic white to them when it's on the same side doesn't really look so good. So we have this lovely card front now, and I'm literally just going to stick it in place. So we'll use the ZZ fold technique, of course. Make sure it's even in the middle, and then we know we can't put adhesive further than the edge of the strawberry slush. So we'll run some adhesive down there. And then when we turn it over and put it into place, we know it's not going to stick the card closed. There's no adhesive here. But then I didn't really want to cut a whole card in half to get a piece for the greeting. And like I say, basic white didn't work, it was too bright. And then this is a lovely pack of the doodads, the punch outs, which come in the kit to go on the cards. And there was this wonderful little section here, and I thought, ooh. So I often joke about myself being a scrimper, and I like to save as much as I can. But when I cut this out from here, I thought, Alyson, I think you've surpassed your scrimpiness. But you know what? It works. So thank you, little leftover pieces. And here's a thing. We're going to be using this in one of the previous paper pumpkins I did. There were punch out strawberries and we sponged them. So stay tuned, not in this video, in an upcoming one. I will be actually using this. So don't say I don't make the most of the negatives that come in the card. So again, I'm going to bring in the big ink pad, and this cute little stamp says just a note, because that's all we want to do is do just a note. But I'm going to stamp it over to the left hand side, because I'm going to cut a point, a banner point on here. And the way we do that is we cut up the middle, and then we cut from the edge to that cut mark, and from the edge to the cut mark. So you should get more or less an even little banner. And then I'm going to attach this with dimensionals. So they came in the kit rather wonderfully. So I will put one, oh goodness me, I'm peeling the backings off unwittingly. One there, and just one in the middle, just for good measure, to make sure it gets to stay safely. And then we'll put it just in the middle of the window case, up to the edge. And there you have a half full card. There's all this lovely area to write in. Of course, you wouldn't write in this area, but I felt it just took this card front and made it a little bit more. So that's the second card. The third card is using this lovely basket full of blooms. So I'm going to bring in a few ingredients. And every quarter for Paper Pumpkin Stampin' Up, bring out a little die set, add-on die set. This is not the current one, actually. This is a one that I had previously. But when you've invested in things and you have them, it's nice to be able to use them. So what I did was I took the thanks and I cut it out of the Timid Tiger, which is one of the other 25-27 in colors. And then what I want to do is I took a piece of Coastal Cabana, which is this color, and it's actually listed on the back of the ingredients. It always lists suggested coordinating colors, and Coastal Cabana was one of those colors. And then there's this lovely background stamp, and I do happen to have a Coastal Cabana in my previous spots collection. So I'm going to ink that up and stamp it in the middle, and then I'm going to ink it again. And the fun thing is the patterns are designed to continue. I just need to make sure I'm getting them close enough, although I must be honest and say, put a piece of scratch paper underneath and still manage to stamp onto my work surface. So go me, not following my own advice. So let me just put that in for a quick wash. But now we have a lovely piece of Coastal Cabana, and this is just the card front. I just cut it down the seam. So I'm now going to attach this to a piece of basic white. So the basic white is cut at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. But because the card front is going to be the entire thing, you can't tell there's a slight difference between the winter white and the basic white that is behind. So let me just go ahead and add some adhesive. And I'm going to bring in my silicone mat, not because it's sticky, just because it gives a nice visual contrast color. So it helps get it into place. So we just need to line up the front and the top and the bottom, and then technically that should take care of the whole thing up to the seam. So now we've got just a half a card turned into a whole card. And then what I want to do is I just want to cut this down a little. So I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and I think I'm just going to trim it to 4. And hopefully that should be just about the right size for the front. Actually, no, but you know what? I can just do it with my scissors I'm just going to snip off another little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly the same trick. I'm going to cut up and cut from the point, oops, to that point I'd cut up to, and do exactly the same on the other side. And then we get nice even miters on the card, and that makes it just the right size. So then I'm going to stick the thanks on, and I'm actually going to do that with liquid glue just because it needs just little pieces of glue. I don't want to use the rolling adhesive because I think that would be too much, and too much would overhang. So if we do it on the silicone mat, no stickiness gets onto the work surface. And then I can pop that in the middle, and then it has a nice contrast. And then I'm going to bring in some of the larger dimensionals that I happen to have already in my stash. But of course you could use the smaller ones out of the kit. They do work just as well. So peel the backing papers off and stick that into place. And then what I found in my stash of bling that I keep hoarding was these wonderful adhesive backed seasonal sequins. I know I've had the artisanal sequins or something, but I thought these would be rather lovely because they've got that lovely deep coastal cabana suggestive color. So I'm going to put, let's put them actually on blue to tie it in, and I will put one big one up there. And there you have it. So, oops, that's another card made using just one of the card fronts, and it leaves the back free for another project. So that's the third one. The next cards are more of, here's one I made earlier. Because there was so much sticking, I didn't want you to have to sit and watch through me doing it. This one we'll do in just a second. So again, there was the card with this stuck to it. And then what you get is this lovely pack of extras that you punch out in 3D. Remember, that's where I just scrimped that little piece from. But I think this was such a lovely design anyway. That was this one. I don't feel it needed to have anything extra stuck to the top of it. Very lovely if that's what you want to do. But I felt in my, expanding alternative ideas, I could use that so much more to my advantage. So what I did was I took the basket and some of the flowers, and then I stamped that lovely the lovely background shape that we just used across the bottom and sponged it with the coastal cabana. And then I have these lovely dies. These are the painted lavender dies. So I cut them out of different colors, and then also 2 of the greeneries. Now the smaller one I just used as is, but I'll show you on this little basic white one that I cut it where this leaf is, so that frees that up, and then I just cut that one down, and then it gave me 2 smaller pieces to fit in here. So I squeezed them in. They're just stuck down with rolling adhesive, and I sort of arranged them, and then I put the basket on with dimensionals, and then I added, these are the 25-27 in color, what's the actual name, flat pearls, stamped just a note with the secret C, and I backed it onto timid tiger. So I cut the card front down to be just 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I think that makes a really lovely card using the piece that was supposed to go on top of the one that we'd done previously. So that was that one. And then the fifth and final card for this round is sort of the same principle. So I took and I cut everything out the same, and then you can see there's just the sticky rolling adhesive here to attach them. And then the card base is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and like the strawberry slush one, I just cut half the front off at 2 1/8. So we've now got this lovely piece that I'm going to attach the typewriter to, because the typewriter card also had a 3D typewriter die punch, and there are also the little pieces of, it just looks like the paper coming out, and I thought that was so cute. And there's even a slit in the typewriter that you can feed the paper into. It was just so authentic. I loved it. But I'm going to take just a note again, and I'm going to use the Secret Sea ink, and I'm going to stamp, oops, just a note on there. But then I thought, oh, I don't want to stick that down, but of course it's not very secure and it could fall out, but I wanted to give it sort of an authentic 3D look. But in order to make it stay put, I'm just going to use good old sticky tape. And stick it down in the back so it can still, well, I've stuck it down now, but you know, it can still move around. I stuck it the wrong way, didn't I? Oh, you silly sausage. Hold on. There's no point in having an idea and not executing it properly. So what we need to do is throw that piece of sticky tape away. What we need to do is stick the top piece of the typewriter to the bar. Leave this piece floating because now it can move. Sorry about that. You know when you see something from the front and when you do it on the other side, it's like, oh, sometimes you can turn yourself around. So last but not least, we are going to attach this to the front, and we are going to do that with dimensionals. So we'll put 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, but not too high up that we stop that from being able to, I mean, it doesn't want to fall out or bend over, don't get me wrong, but it just does want to look like it was legitimate. So this was the other piece of the card. It was the back of the one that had the basket on it. So it was 5.5 by 4 1/4, and I cut it in half at 2 3/4. This one I cut down to 2 3/8 by 4 1/8, and you'll see why I did that really soon. So these I just want to stick on the edges of the typewriter, and I'm going to do that by just adding just one little dot of glue to each corner. And sticking each flower on. So then I'm going to bring in the card front, and using our lovely ZZ technique, I am going to line it up equally around and put adhesive where it can go. And then stick it to the front. So it's kind of a ZZ, only there isn't a Z or a Z, it's just a fold. So then there's no adhesive in here. But then in order to make sure that this isn't visible from the front, the best trick for that is to put adhesive on the back where it's going to stick down. Ooh. End of that adhesive. Bring in the handy dandy standby. And this was cut down by just 1/8. So what we're going to do is we're going to line it up so you can just see the extra 1/8 around, and then close the card on it. So now when you look from the front, you know that this is positioned behind. So there you have that card. And then last but not least, this didn't get a good crease with the bone folder, did it? So what we want to do is add some of this lovely bling. And because there are colors of everything, I think I'm just gonna go mad. Let's put a yellow one and an orange one and a strawberry slush one. And last but not least, because you have to have an odd number, don't you? We'll just put one up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we have to have something down here now. Oh heck, I'm not very good at doing such big multiples. Let's just put that one there and a little. There we go. Oh my goodness, I might have over blinged it, but you know what? Is there such a thing? So now you can open that. There is just a little bit of glue in there. It's not even the adhesive sticking over. So that is the 5th card. So let me bring them all back in for you so you can see them in their glory. This was the typewriter, the window front, the thanks card, the lovely just a note, here's one I made earlier card, and then the lovely one that we've just done with the florals. Oh, I think we're falling off the bottom, but I need to leave it open so that you can see. Just put them in a different order. There you go, now they fit, but I wanted you to be able to see that there will be directions and dimensions on my blog. If you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing. If you have a question or a comment, pop those in the box below and I will always get back with you. Like I said, this is the first 5. There are some more coming. So subscribe, ring the bell, check back often. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching.